It's hard balancing the world of relating to people about what they can relate to in your world and relating to them about what they can't relate. I know this sounds really confusing, but I want you to stop and think about this for a second. If you are moving in a particular professional space, you're going to deal with and be exposed to a lot of things that the average person is not. I'm not saying that that makes you smarter than anyone. I'm not saying that makes you better than anyone. But what it does do is it presents this unique situation where you are going to have conversations, be in circles, have access to people that the people in your life who may have known you from back in the day and have not necessarily progressed to the same level as you, they may not be able to relate to it. And that doesn't make you sedity or uppity or think you all that. It's not even like that. It's just that you have a world that they can't relate. And so a lot of times there are times when you're having conversations, the people who know they can't relate to your world, they don't try. I mean, they don't try to sit there and say, well, you're a stockbroker. Let's talk about these stocks. If the person doesn't know anything about stocks and so forth, they're not going to try to do that. But there are going to be some people that you experience, that you're going to interact with, who are going to feel like you are leaving them, that you are disconnecting with them, that they no longer have you as a friend, or they no longer feel like they can relate to you because you're no longer that person. Newsflash. With each day, you no longer are the person that you were yesterday. So the person you were back in high school is not going to be the same person you were 20 years from now. That's just ridiculous to think that. The reality is that once you start getting exposed to other things, you're going to start having greater conversations with people about other things as well. You're going to have these conversations where you're like, whoa, and you're not going to realize it until you come back to your spaces with people who you've known for the longest and realize that they can't engage with you in the way that you used to. Now, am I telling you that you should kick them to the curb or anything like that? No. But what I am telling you is that you got to be prepared for the reality that they may feel a certain way about the fact that they can't engage you the same way that they used to. They may also feel that they have slipped up and you've kind of left them because of that fact. The truth is that you maneuver in the space that you're maneuvering in because you have created those opportunities for yourself, but you're still the same person in terms of certain aspects of you. But just as much as you're the same person with regards to certain aspects, you're also not that same person. Because guess what? It's not that you've left those old attributes behind. It's just that you've now expanded upon and built upon so many things that you didn't know were possible for yourself, that you are now communicating and engaging in ways that have broadened your horizon. And that's a great thing. But the biggest issue that you run across is this feeling that the person who you're dealing with who has not done those things may not be able to relate with you. And the simple hardcore reality is that in some instances they can't. If you know that part of your job requires you to play golf and they don't know how to golf and they have no interest in golfing, guess what? If you're in spaces where you're dealing with people who talk about golfing, they may not be able to relate. Well, that's not your issue, that's theirs. If there's a situation where you're used to talking about supply trains and so forth like that, and they want to go with you to an event, and you bump into somebody who that's what they know, and the next thing you know, you're in an hour-long conversation about the impact of the supply chain in the United States and how it applies globally and so forth. And this person is sitting off to the side feeling like, I want to go home now, because they don't feel comfortable. It's not that they don't feel comfortable, it's just that this is not a world they can relate. The onus is upon you and them for two reasons. They have to recognize that there are going to be spaces that this is not their space. So if they're going to go with you to that space, they got to recognize that they are now entering into a world where you maneuver that they may not. And they have to accept that reality. And if they can't, I don't know what to tell you. But for you, you have to recognize that it is not your responsibility to make them feel more comfortable or to come down to a point where it's not your responsibility to have to compensate for the fact that they can't relate to this world. You have progressed and moved in a manner where how you maneuver is very different from how you used to. It is not your responsibility to make sure people who used to be able to relate to you can still relate to you in the same manner. If they don't feel comfortable, You just know not to bring them in those spaces. And when you're around them, you just know that you relate to them in a world that they understand. But they have to accept the reality that you have moved to a higher plateau of relations. And if they can't feel comfortable with that, they have to ask themselves, what purpose do they serve in your world? Because your world is not shrinking just because theirs hasn't expanded.